I've been warning everyone about April 29th, which is a full moon in Scorpio. And by now you may have heard that Damascus was bombed yet again. I told you we're in a high alert, red alert, spiritually speaking, prophetically speaking. I don't know if you know the Damascus prophecy, but with the Hebrews waking up and starting to remember who they are and having so much problems with Damascus, the fake synagogue of Satan, who says they're Jews but they're not, Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9, and Ephraim, which is the United States of America. There's no way Russia or their allies are going to sit back and just let any nation just keep bombing them. Now, I didn't put anything in the title because this is just a prelude. Because if you know the spiritual significance of next month, May, which is just in 2 days, and I've been talking about all this on all my channels. You can look in the description box and get the 3 channels that I'm usually on. People have to make sure that they're in harmony with. If you're a Christian, you have to make sure you're obeying the commandments of Jesus Christ, primarily found in the New Testament, because failure to do so means you're not in covenant. It actually means you're breaking covenant, and that could result in you burning in hell forever. So this is not a joke. Same way with Hebrews, who have accepted Messiah. They too have to obey the commandments of Jesus Christ, because he said, this commandment I'm making with you is based on you obeying me. So if they don't obey him, they won't be there. And again, in Exodus chapter 19, which we studied together on this channel, God offered the commandments to the nation of Israel, and they said all that he says will do. So when they did that, he bound them. He set and bound them. So they were bound by obeying. And then when they failed to do so, he overthrew them. He destroyed their covenant, but that was for their benefit. Because had not he destroyed the covenant and ended it with the Messiah on the cross, then they would have had to go to literal hell instead of the bosom or paradise, which is near hell, but it's not the literal fire. But again, so the Hebrews that claim to be Christians, they too have to obey that covenant, because they're kind of giving up their Hebrew right by saying they follow Messiah. There's a lot of Hebrews that don't believe in Messiah, doesn't believe that gentleman is a Messiah. But because of God's promises to Abraham, he found a way to bring them in. So at the end of the day, anybody in God's kingdom on the other side of this world, at the end, on the last day, which is fastly approaching, the last day of this physical world, they will submit to Messiah. Now, according to Scripture, anybody that's not part of that covenant God made to Abraham, or this messianic covenant, according to God, these people will not make it into his new heavens and new earth. Revelation chapter 11 said that when it came time for God to set up his kingdom, that the nations would become wrathful, and they would more or less begin warring, and that's what you're saying now. And notice who's really starting these wars is the same people claiming to be the people of God, but are not. So these are very, very critical times prophetically, and also the scriptures are indicating. Oh yeah, you should have saw that. The scriptures I just did on Isaiah 54, but it's also Daniel 7 and probably a couple of other places. There is an implication in the Bible that these devils will try to make one final assault on the real people of God, that's going to speed up the so-called last day. The last day is when God delivers his people and destroys all these fake satanic people in fire, taking them into hell. Now, that's the main thing I had to say. And again, the Bible, if you're aware of it, the Bible says this will all be with Damascus, Syria. And that's where all this is going on, primarily in Damascus, but I think it's in other parts of Syria as well. What they're doing is pushing these people. And they've been trying to do it. They're trying to push these people into a major war, but unfortunately, scripturally saying, they're making a big mistake. All right, now that's the end of that. For anybody that came for that, I will be talking about other things. See, people don't get it. They don't get it. And they don't get a lot of things. But again, my job is to just tell you what I know to be true. And you see it's true because it's right on the day I said that they bombed Damascus again. And this is a prelude to that big month of next month. And I've been giving you a lot of information on these months, these dates, and even their connection to the constellations above us. So if you've been keeping up, then you'll more or less know what's going on. But all this information comes to me from God by various ways. Now I told you about the house that burnt down years ago on January 1st. Sounds strange for a house to burn down on that day, especially since it's the only house that ever burnt down in this neighborhood. I always knew that was a prophetic sign. And the people who used to own the house were called basically the bulls. Because the Bible says you must sacrifice a bull or an ox before entering the house of God. And that bull or ox that'll be sacrificed on the last day is white supremacy and the enemies of the true Hebrews. They will be sacrificed in the fire called Babylon the Great at Revelation chapter 17. So now for some reason, well, the reason basically is Asherah, who is the wife of the God of the Hebrews. See, the enemy did its best to get rid of the feminine deity and replaced it with paternal deity. But now we're returning back to the feminine. Everything is going back into the woman's womb, as John chapter 3 said. This is being born again, or the new heavens and new earth. This is why the earth opens up and swallows the flood sent after the woman in Revelation 12, because Jesus already told you going back into the earth is a lot like going back into the belly or the womb. And when Jesus died at the 9th hour, there was a great earthquake, and the earth opened up allegedly, and people came out of the earth, or the so-called dead-like condition, and went back into the holy city. So that's what you would be, being born again, Some people call it the regeneration, other people call it the recreation. And it's fastly approaching us. So those people that are rebuilding those houses are the same effing group of my twin, but a whole lot of people in this neighborhood now are that, and there's just strange, unique similarities. They're building a fence now, big fence, just like the other people did. There's actually 3 families and all strange connections that I like to go over kind of quickly. Some of this may not make sense to you. I want to try to make as much sense, but keep in time. Some people that have heard me will know. But one lady, this is how crazy this gets. But if you hear me talk, it always goes back to the 80s when I was a Jehovah's Witness. Now, even in 2014, when my twin flame was introduced to me by the universe, one of the women that came there was actually the wife of one of my biggest mentors back then. We used to all be together. Now, the last name William, I am, but that is Leo, I will, and Aries, I am. Remember, I'm a Leo, and my twin is a lot, I am. But what you're really looking at, as above, so below. This is why you have to learn how to think metaphysically. You'll never understand that Bible if you don't. That's why the Bible talks about mysteries of the kingdom in Matthew 13. So any twin flame relationship is really the divine masculine and the divine feminine, that being the divine mother and the divine son. And this is all throughout the ancients. And this is why you have to stay in tune with what's going on now, because what people make the mistake, and this is why God has to break them out of it, because they're trained doctrine. They're trained doctrine, especially if it's biblical. But in those doctrines, through the symbols and all everything, is the truth. But this is why Matthew 25 tells you that the people that only have the lamp or the word, because it says your lamp is a light to my foot, but people that only have the lamp will not progress spiritually. They have to have the lamp and the oil. And what the oil represents the Holy Spirit. See, it's the yin and the yang. The lamp represents the divine masculine, but that oil represents the divine feminine, and she is connected closer to God because God is that feminine darkness, the womb that all life comes from. You have to understand these things. And I'm saying this is what it boils down to. And this is why I keep warning people. See, it's not a joke. You can't just believe what you want to and you're going to make it anyway because you're a good person and God knows your heart. This is where I'm talking is where God really is at. And every time you hear anything about Damascus, that's God's way of telling you time is running out. So it's not so much I'm a good person. I already told you the only way you're getting in. Let's just say you're a Christian and whatever you think, but you really don't obey Messiah. Then you're not in covenant. You break the covenant. This is why the Hebrews got overthrown. Because they were in covenant, but they continually kept breaking it. So in order for God not to send them to hell, he had to not only end that covenant, make it impossible for them to follow it, destroy the temple, no animals. But he had to give you Messiah to make a way for them. And that's why even them persisting on obeying the covenant, they have to be careful. Because by them assisting and insisting on obeying something that has been ended and really terminated, they're still fighting against God. So they're walking on a tightrope, and they better hope God's wind, which is judgment, God's wind is judgment, feminine judgment is in the wind. They better hope that the judgment of God doesn't blow them off. But God is working very hard to save them. And this is why when they told Jesus, why don't you rest on the Sabbath. And Jesus said, my Father has continued working, so will I. He said, well, wait, the Bible says God rests on the seventh day. But Jesus said that God continued to work. So the Sabbath, the more you study it, and you can study our Hebrew study in the playlist, the Sabbath and the rest of God is for those going into hell. It's ruled by Satan or Set, or Sabbath, or Sit, or Set, or Ampu, or the dog, or Anubis. And this is why Jesus kept working, because God and Jesus have never stopped working to save the people. That's why Jesus said, my Father keeps working, and I keep working. The Sabbath is for God's enemies. And I know it's hard for you to get it, but again, you won't get it when you don't listen to the Holy Spirit or work with the Holy Spirit. And you have studies here to show you. That's why people getting upset or whatever they're doing, you're foolish. I just told you, decades and decades of studying, working with the Holy Spirit. But you want to keep telling me foolishness that somebody taught you. If your Sabbath is still in effect, how come Messiah never celebrated it? You can't find one scripture where the Messiah celebrated. But that's supposed to be your leader if you call yourself a Christian. So you're already in disobedience. You've already broken the covenant. He said you have to obey him to inherit it. You'll go to hell. And that's what the Sabbath is for. That's what the rest is for. You got the rest, you got the resurrection. The resurrection prefigures these Hebrews primarily in a dead-like state for over 400 years, but now they'll be resurrected. But the rest is for people not getting back up into that Sabbath. That's why it's Sabbath. Some people say it's like, even when we say it starts on Friday, but really the bottom line is that Friday at evening is considered the beginning of Saturday, because their day starts at nighttime. And also you have to ask yourself, why do they call it Friday? Fry. And then a lot of them, don't they fry fish? So you got to really study what you're doing there. Why are you frying fish at the evening? Because you're simulating hell. Also, the last day is the end of Christianity. Because Christianity was used to enslave the Hebrews. That's the great fish of Jonah. It'll always be about the Hebrews. So if they obeyed Messiah, these Christians, they got nothing to worry about. But if they don't, when he ends, on that last day, he ends Ephraim, everything. All you have to do is read John 11, where he resurrected Lazarus, who represents the Hebrews. Just read John 11 and Luke chapter 16. And then once he resurrected Lazarus, in John 11, he went and he set on Ephraim, or he sends Ephraim or America into hell. And that's why you don't see Ephraim at Revelation chapter 7. You see Manasseh, but Manasseh was a half tribe. So you have to ask yourself, do we see all of Manasseh at Revelation 12, or just that half tribe? And did the other half go into hell? These are things you have to ask yourself. So you got to let the Bible talk. And that's what I've been trying to show people, despite a large amount of people not liking me or not listening. But that doesn't mean because you go somewhere else that God's going to be on your side. God is only going to be on the side of those who fall in his perimeters of what I'm stating. And of course, he's merciful. So he'll always show mercy to people who maybe we don't think should be there. That's the theme of the Bible. The people we think should be there might not be, and the people we think shouldn't be there might be there. You have to learn to do what God tells you to do, and don't worry about other people. This is what Jesus told Peter when he asked about John in John chapter 21. Also, there is no temple. So you have a Messiah that did not celebrate the Sabbath. You have a holy Bible that tells you Messiah is the end of the law. You have no temple, so you couldn't sacrifice if you wanted to. And you have no animals. So on and on. And you have Paul telling you. Remember, they said, all that the Lord has said we will do. And then he cursed them. He put a curse. He set bounds. In other words, if your word is your bond, if you break this covenant, you're going to set or sell. Because set is Seth is Ample or Anubis. Then he was talking about put people to death. This is Ezekiel chapter. This is Exodus chapter 19. So Paul told you, you said you would do all. So if you can't do one thing, or if you don't do one thing, you violate the entire law. So that's why it was taken out the way. And Messiah is covering them. But some of them don't even believe in Messiah. Some of them do. But if you're going to say you believe in Messiah, then that means you have to obey the commandments of Messiah. This is all going to be about obedience. Not about free will. Not walking around talking about you can do what you want. How I'll do. Oh, Jesus made the way. Jesus covered my sins and all that foolishness. That foolishness will get you killed and sent to hell. This is about obedience. It always has been. And that's why in Revelation 2 and 3, if it was all about this foolishness they're talking, when he showed up in Revelation 2 and 3, he wouldn't have been warning them and threatening them and everything. There would have been no need. He would just forgave everybody. Book of Revelation about him threatening them Christians, get their act together, gonna get them, liberating the Hebrews and destroying all the enemies. That's what the book of Revelation is about. And that destruction is all them being cast down into hell. You even hear them talking about the lake of fire in the book of Revelation. So, again, so you got in this neighborhood now, there's 4 houses. Now, in the 1980s, I always wondered why I was seeing this woman. Because when I was coming up, it was a thug. We called him Spider. But he was right up the street from me. So he always looked out for me. But see, this is all metaphysical, like I tell you. Most of the people around you and people you work with, these are people you've had past lives with. And that's why you be out of town and all kind, and they still be seeing the same people. Because I remember this lady, she was kind of considered old then. But she was always out. And I would be out early in the morning to see her. I'd be like out of town. And I would see her because I'd be out early in the morning because I was doing door to door and stuff. But I would just be all over the place and say, man, this old lady really gets around. And, you know, she still had her energy and all that. But she really was like, she had to be about 60 or something then. And if not, she was old then. And then the day when the post office made a mistake and took my package, and I was highly upset. But see, that was God. It was meant to be. Because that's when I went there that day, and that was that house. And I didn't see her, but I saw her daughter. But she's probably in the house. Now, why is this important? See, that's the 4th house. Because in the house right next to hers is the house where the female lives that looks a lot like my twin. But across the street is where they used to live. But they still own both houses, but they don't live in that other house. Why is this important? Again, this is all going back to this whole Mexico thing. Because they have a big play in this. And always have. And when you think about Mexicans, you think about the ancient Incas, Aztecs, and Mayans. But again, we don't know who the original people were. Might have been the people that look like that. Or actually, because a lot of Native Americans look more like what y'all call African Americans. And there was a lot of games being played, a lot of watering down and stuff. It's a long story. But even some Native Americans have the blue kachina prophecy, red kachina, blue kachina. And then they say Sirius is the planet. Sirius is the star system of the so-called Indians, Native Americans, and even African Americans. Then other people say Lilith is the mother of the slanted eye people. Any people with like slanted eyes, whether they be Asian, I guess, African American, anything. And then they tell you that Pluto is the planet of the black people. This is myastrologybook.com. So all these people are soul connections. Stuff is higher metaphysics. But anyway, I went outside early yesterday morning because I heard the mail truck. And I saw that old lady, but she's just standing out there in the street. And I was wondering why she's standing out there in the street like that. And then that little girl, that little Mexican girl was out there, and she had on those boots. But see, I keep telling you, Arcturus been trying to communicate big time, and Arcturus is in the boots constellation. So in the Bible, it does talk about boots and feet and all that. And then some other females that are unable to wear them same type of boots. It looks just like the boots, and that's what that little girl had on. She had on her like pajamas, and then she had on them boots. And I just thought that was strange because it was like, it was almost close to 12 or whatever. It was like brought out there. But see, the woman was out in the street. So I was saying, why is that old lady out in the street? It didn't make no sense. I said, did somebody drop off in a car? And then that other family came over. That's the Mexican family. But that's where that female, she looks just like my twin. Exact. Moves like her and everything. Because all of this has to do, you have to understand it's always going to be two angels, two witnesses at the destruction. Genesis 19, Revelation 11. And in all these things, it's just prophecy and prophecy confirmation. So then that woman also came, that little girl, I guess that was her aunt or her mother or some relative of hers. So she came because that lady was just in the street. And she had a cane. And I knew it was a mystery. But at the same time, they were showing me the three phases of the divine feminine. See, they're telling you how close it is. The three phases of the divine feminine. The young girl or the teenage girl. The woman that's in her 20s to 40. And then the crone, the old lady. So that's what they were showing me. But I didn't know who that woman was later until I started thinking. And then they reminded me, when I say they, the people that really run this entire universe, they reminded me of the time my package went up there. And I said, oh, I know who that is. That has to be her. Because that was the only thing that made logical sense. So she probably came outside, was walking or something. And she just walked. You know how you just walking? Because that lady, she always been active. But she been alive a long time. And I don't know if he probably is. But there's another man up the street. And he's unbelievably old. Because I know he fought in a war or something. So that man got to at least be somewhere in the 90s or 100. And this lady got to be in the 90s. So what God is doing is showing you all these people representing the end. And that other gentleman, big prophecy minister, is always getting in trouble and all that. But that's R.G. Stair, because he just turned like 85. I think recently. I think. And they have a big Pentecost celebration next month. So what you're seeing now that happened with this full moon, because full moons always represent something impactful, some revelation that's about to happen. But anyway, so on top of that house across the street where this twin used to live is another white bag. And now on top of, and that's way up there in them trees, now on top of this other, where these Mexicans now live in a house that they brought because it burnt down or whatever, and they rebuilt it all the way up. And now they're putting a fence up. And they have a bag on top of their trees. But it's all these bags been coming all over. I'm just trying to give it to you short. Because y'all might be going, well, what's the big deal? So what? The wind blew the bag. No. It selects situations where these bags are appearing. These are all signs. Now, the other bag, out of nowhere, I go outside, I guess, to check the mail. One day it was kind of windy. And I'm coming back inside, but I think I see something out the corner of my eye. So when I turn to see what I'm looking at, this bag goes flying across the street to the other side and goes in trees and just stays there. So that's the fourth bag that's done that. I've never seen no junk like this. Even the squirrels is acting crazy. They're doing all kind of maneuvering, and then they just stand there like statues. And they keep doing it. See, these are all messages about something. And I keep telling you, Damascus. And see, you have to understand, every time there's a shooting and all that, these people are always close to it. And that house that's being rebuilt, there's always weird stuff going on in that little thing. Weird lights that you can't explain. And it's always like this neighborhood. Whenever you deal with these portals, you see cops in the area, animals in the area, or strange stuff you can't explain, or like criminals or lawbreakers, drug-related stuff. And unfortunately, even a couple of murders have happened. But I've talked about all this on my different videos, so I don't want to keep talking about the same stuff, whether you heard it or not. That's why I said sometimes I have no choice but to paraphrase, because we be having long videos all the time. So those are really the three houses, both across the street from each other. Then this house, and then on the other house is somebody in that house, because that female looks a little bit like my twin too. It's somebody in that house, because every time there's any type of gun violence anywhere near my neighborhood or in my neighborhood, they seal off those streets. In fact, I went out today, and on that street was just a cop just waiting there at the edge. And it's always cops going up that street and streets around. So it's a lot going on, but to me it's all one, because I see it. Just like sometimes in my neighborhood will be dead quiet, and all of a sudden it'll be active, but like people will be moving. I see this all the time, but they're not all together though. So you would say, oh, what's the big deal? So what? It was quiet for a minute and then people move, but it's not. They're coming from all over, and they're not doing it together. But for some reason, the movement is together. So I know this stuff is synced. And that's why they try to tell you all that in the Matrix. What the Matrix showed you, for lack of a better word, they're showing you some type of high-tech, like computerized location. But it's like computer working with spirit and other stuff. And they showed you the control room. And then they showed you people that their job is to keep law and order. Like if you start to wake up, their job is to put your ass back to sleep or kill you. And when I say put you back to sleep, in other words, delusional. Back in this BS they call life out here. When really all it is really like a type of prison. Or a form of hell. So now the day was relatively quiet because it was a Sunday. Nothing was moving. Nothing. I said, now keep in mind, I'm going to have to repeat this because this is where it gets really weird. He said, well, it's been sounding weird. Well, it's about to get a little bit weirder. That's why I said when I'm out here talking, I'm not just going, woe is me. Oh, wow, my life. Oh, no, I'm trying to tell you this shit is real. Like, this is crazy. So nothing's really going on. So I said, you know what, this is a great time to I ride my car around to keep the battery charged, but also I gotta get some gas. So I'm thinking it's a great time to go. So the first thing I turn on my celly, and now somebody left a message. And like now I'm like, okay, now why does somebody want to leave a message as soon as I'm getting ready to go out the door? So then I heard that, and that's just one of them things. So I got that message. So I said, I'm still going to go out or whatever. I'm going to go to the gas station. So now so you have to understand, on 2 different occasions I went to this gas, but this other gas is further up the street. I usually go there early in the morning. Then I go to the store right next, right in that area. Not right next to it, but right in that area. Right in that same area. So one time I went, I guess it was cold or something. So then this dude's, I could tell he's having a problem with the gas. So he puts gas, but no gas comes out. So here I'm paying for gas, and then really no gas came out. And you really don't know because you don't think of stuff like this. But this, like I said, I won't talk on that too much. But what I've learned is, depending on who you are, and it may happen to other people, but depending on who you are, it's always something going ahead of you. Like if you have a plan to go, it's going to be something that goes with another plan to frustrate that plan. There is a battle between good and evil, I'll put it that way. But it just depends on who you are and where you are in life, whether you'll see that or not. But I think everybody goes through some effed up stuff or some strange ass shit. And so that happened at one time. So then I went another time, and he was pumping gas and everything. Soon as I pulled up, like I went to pump gas, and the guy came out, or said something to him, and then he said to me, "Okay, could you wait a few minutes? We gotta fill the tank back up." And I'm saying to myself, why does it have to fill the tank up as soon as I pull up? You just pump that guy's gas. I like, no, I can't wait, because everything I be doing, I be scheduled. Because like I know for a fact, I just know from being here long enough. I gotta tell you, this one. One time I shopped at this store relatively earlier in the morning. I guess it was early in the morning. I forget. Because usually when I'm shopping, it be dark. This time I think it was still kind of early in the morning, but that was just a brighter morning. I forget. So anyway, this person comes speeding into the parking lot because I'm getting ready to leave. And I can tell, like I'm trying to tell you. And they tried to show you this in the Matrix. But this lady definitely was programmed. And if you've been reading the paper, it's a whole lot of people walking up to people just punching them for no reason, stabbing them for no reason. One lady tased somebody for no reason. See, these people got spirits on them, like I keep trying to tell you. Because she came speeding, and I see this like a nice amount of times, but she came speeding into that parking lot. Like she was trying her best. And I said, again, I'm going to say it again. I see this all the time. It's narcissism. It's not narcissism. I see this all the time. She came speeding into the parking lot like she knew she was late because her job was to try to get in front of me or something to frustrate me some type of way. So she came speeding in like she is out of her mind. So I'm looking at her because I see this all the time. So I know that I call that I just say a program. That woman is programmed. There's some type of spirits on her. Just by the way she's driving, her craziness. So then I'm trying to pull out because she got there late. So by the time she got there, I'm already getting ready to go. So she can't get in my way. She can't try to start nothing. I'm like, because I see this shit all the time. So then I'm getting ready to pull out. Now I'm getting ready to leave. So she jumps out. Like as soon as she stops that vehicle, she's out of it. This is how fast she's moving. But she wants to get in front of me some type of way. And that's what she does. So she tries to get in front of me. So I'm keeping an eye on her because I'm going to pull out. And I already can tell this chick is nuts. So I'm trying to make sure she ain't nowhere near my car. Can't be no I hate you and no crazy shit. Because you get stuff like this. So then she makes eye contact with me. And then she stops and goes back to the van. Like she's making sure the doors are locked. Or she's trying to check something, make sure, whatever, in the van. But up to then, she was speeding so fast that was the last thing she was worrying about. And then she even jumped out the van. As soon as she parked it, she was out that van coming towards my car. So that's how I knew she was programmed. Some demons, I see this all the time. So then, when she failed that mission, she did the same thing my neighbors do. Like, you'll come outside and just lock the car door. For what? Y'all know me for decades. You know me? Like, what the hell is that about? Like, what's the point? So, it's demons on these people, and they try to get inside your head one way or another. Either accuse you of some shit you didn't do, lie. Like I said, if she could have got close to the car, somehow it would have bumped her. Oh, you just hit me with the car. No, you just pulled up all crazy, and you're in front of my car. So that's why I waited. I already know. I see this. So, I had to throw that in there. Because like I said, when you're on a righteous course, that's how you know. Now, so I done showed you a gas station. I went through 2 different times, and both times, for whatever reason, they weren't able to serve me gas. So I stopped going there for a while. I just get sick of pulling up in there. So then it's another gas station that I never will go to. But when I'm going back home after shopping early in the morning, that gas station is there. So I said, oh good, I'll go there. So I went there that one day. That might have been literally the second time I went there, but I don't make a habit to go there. So I went there that one day, and the guy tried to get a little tough or whatever. No, he was on some bully stuff. So I just set him straight, and then I didn't have a problem with him. So I said, you know what, maybe it's just better if I just go to that gas station instead of going to the other one, because it's always a problem there. Plus, in that gas station, it's a convenience store, so then you got to wait because people coming back and forth. So then when I went to go to that gas station, they had closed it down and pulled everything up. Y'all know when they go deep with the gas lines or whatever, they have pulled everything up. So y'all said, well, what's the big deal about that? But that shit only happened when I never seen that before. If you knew how many times I rode past that gas station, I ain't never see it blocked off or pulled up. But again, y'all gonna say, well, that still sounds crazy to me. Well, I told you it was a crazy situation. But now, this is gas station number 3. Nowhere near those 2 gas stations. Nowhere near those 2 gas stations. And that's the only reason why I went out tonight, to go to that gas station. So, I get there, pull up in that gas station, and it's like a freaking ghost town. And so another car pulled up. So they was both looking. We was looking for the guy as he coming. But I don't know what's going on with that gas station. I've never seen that. So that's 3 gas stations. None of them really available to pump gas. So you can call that what you want. I won't even bring a conclusion to that. So then when I came back to the neighborhood, that's where that cop was sitting on that one street at the end. He was just sitting, whatever he was doing. So I rode, and then I got back to my spot. And then, like, remember I said the neighborhood was dead. Then all of a sudden, just as I'm pulling up, these 2 thugs come out, and they're literally thugs. But I know what it is. It's some guy on that street selling, because I always see activity on that street. So it's always something, because that's all I can tell you. I could be more specific, but I'll leave it at that. But I will tell you this: in the same township, not necessarily near my house, but in the same township, one time a guy was washing his car, I guess, because it's kind of, it's one of them things. Like, that's almost anywhere. You can catch a bad one if you're not careful. So I guess he was washing his car, because he's washing the car, maybe he had on the radio or something. But I guess he had the car running. So when he's washing his car, he ain't think nothing of it. But 3 thugs, came by and kind of like stole his car or something. So that's why I say all this matters. There is darkness, there is light. And I'm using darkness in a negative connotation, but darkness is not always in a negative connotation. But to make the point, I'm using it that way, darkness versus light. And again, I remember one time I was out washing my car, kind of early in the morning, not real early. And so these people pulled up. Now, one of the dudes in the car, I had a little history with him before anyway. Now, when the dude pulled up, he saw me washing the car or whatever. But he's still going to pull right there. So it wasn't nothing I could do. Because, like, it was a full street. Like, he would have pulled up. But he going to pull right there. So these people have demons on them. And they just looking to start a fight. So I'm going to keep doing me. I'm going to try to watch the water. But if you pull up right when somebody washing their car, what you think going to happen? Like, why don't you pull up? So I'm going to try to control the hose, but I'm still going to wash my car. So it was 3 of them in the vehicle. And like I said, the one dude, we know each other anyway. Just from some other stuff. That stuff, neighborhood stuff. Like back in the day type stuff. No, I was actually looking out for the dude. But he kind of was an a-hole. So then the guy that pulled up, so they get out, he's kind of staring at me. Because he's trying to get, like, I won't give no feedback. Because I'm not going to talk, like, I'm just going to start fighting. It's not like I'm going to go back and forth. I'm not that type of dude. I don't play games. So he's staring at me, and I guess he's trying to get some type of response from me. Dude, you pulled up. Why would, I don't have nothing to say to you. You pulled up here. You could have just pulled up. There's nothing over there. Why pull it right in the range of the water? That's stupid. Don't nobody care. I don't care. So then he looked at the other guy. He's like, man, he said something to him. And that guy looked at me. Then the guy looked at him and said, well, why would you pull up there if you see him washing it? Pull a car. So then he just pulled it and shit. So that's why I be trying to tell you I move a certain way. Because all this shit I'm trying to tell you, it's all designed to pull you into some shit that don't got nothing to do with you. At all times. Now the neighborhood's dead. I sit there and watch. The whole neighborhood's dead. Then all of a sudden out of nowhere come these 2 thugs and shit. And I'm telling you that, why is that important? Because you don't know their motive. See, this neighborhood used to be a lot of riffraff starting to move back into the neighborhood. But this used to be like a spot. Like this neighborhood got so bad, DEA came in, FBI, or you name it. They all came, tactical. And on 3 streets, they kind of like pulled drug lords out. And then the neighborhood's starting to get like that again. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. Now, how do I tie it in? It gets complicated. And this is the sad part. You know, you have to stay prayed up. But I'm going to say it again. You have to start to lead anybody that made it this far in this video, God bless you. But you have to start leading your life with God in the rulership. Now, anybody I think that, you know, is walking on that tightrope, I'll pray for people. But I'm not going to always realign myself with people. Like if it's a close family member or something, I'll do the best I can do. But the bottom line is, I told you what God is looking for. And I don't think he's going to, he's not going to go much further than that. See, if people know the Messiah, but are not obeying the Messiah, they're probably going into hell. And I don't care how good they are, how righteous they are. It's about obeying Messiah. He told you that. That's a covenant. The same thing he said at John 15, 10 to 15 is the same thing that was said at Exodus 19. The God of the Old Testament said, if you obey me. And they said, all the Lord has said will do. See, and that's when he bound them and told them if they didn't obey, Set. And Set is Saturn, is Satan, is hell. And that's one of the Sabbath, the real meaning of that Sabbath celebration was, it was a reminder, whether they knew it or not. See, it doesn't matter. He already made a way out for them anyway, just like he did in the Garden of Eden. But I'm telling you, this is what I'm doing. All this stuff is being recorded. It don't matter who think I'm stupid. It don't matter who. It doesn't matter. Look at all these so-called minor prophets. Oh, don't read that. Oh, don't waste your time on that book. It's a minor prophet. Not to God. That's a written record. That has something to do with either this generation or generations before us, or even future generations. It's a written record. That's how he's working. So you have to understand that. So the record is, you gave me your word that you're going to obey everything I told you to do. And now you celebrate the Sabbath, because if you don't, this is where you're going, hell. So that was by record. And if you went to a court system, they would do the same thing. Like they say, if you make a plea bargain, we're still going to find you guilty, but we won't send you away as long. But we need you to make a plea bargain. And if you say, nah, I don't want to make no plea bargain, then they go, okay, you don't want to make a plea bargain? If we find you guilty, and we're pretty sure we will, you're going to go away much longer. You understand? So you're found guilty, but now he found a way out for you. But the reason that Sabbath was a ritual, or the hell they be going in. And that's one of the reasons why you ain't supposed to be moving around and all that stuff. Because you ain't going to be able to move around in hell. Like, you have to really read the writings in it. That's why we're trying to show you. You have to read the words. And really, if you really want it, even they say, people to kind of understand, if you say Sabbath to them, they'll say, no, Jesus is our Sabbath. Because he's the one that saved them from that. But what they really were celebrating on that day was hell. Their stay in hell. Even if you say it, they say, oh, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Okay, but what does that word sound like? Hollow. Holy. Hollow. But hollow is the underworld. It's the bottomless pit of Revelation chapter 9. So you might be celebrating. There's two aspects of the underworld. One is protected by God. That's the bottom or paradise. And one is hell. So in that way, it might be holy, but there's still, you can't get by it. So even if you're celebrating the Boston paradise side of being with God for eternity, but there's also the other side too, you're still celebrating. And it just, what kind of food, is there any certain type of food do they eat during the Sabbath? Well, I just said, like, now I know they be frying fish and stuff. That's hell. You don't want to fry. You don't want to fry or burn unless you're an angel. Unless you're an angel. But if that was true, you just use a candle. You would go, hey, this is a Sabbath celebration. We have to light candles on that day. But they, for much, you basically fry food or something. Fry as hell. Like Monday, let's say Sunday, day of the moon. Sunday, day of the sun. Monday, day of the moon. Tuesday, like the two people coming together, getting ready for the Wednesday, which is the wedding. Thursday, well, Thursday has a lot to do with them, in my opinion, eating and drinking, because he said, I thirst on the cross. So Thursday has a lot to do with the eating and the drinking of flesh, or the last day. Friday is the judgment, or the frying, or hell of the wicked. And then Saturday is eternity in hell. And then that ends everything. And then Sunday represents whatever, Sunday of the sun. I already said that. That's why I said, the more you understand metaphysics, you'll cut through all this stuff. Because what they do, I'm showing you the ultimate meaning behind these words. And then what they did throughout the centuries to keep it going, they added more and more to it. So now you say, well, Tuesday is the day of Mars and blah, 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 blah. But the ultimate meaning of Tuesday is what I said. Because even with Mars, you get marriage. You understand? So that's why all this matters. And for people that are understanding what I'm saying, then when you see stuff, you know. So before you'll know what's going on. This is happening for a reason. It's not a coincidence. So once again, all you can do is stay prayed up. But you can't be involved with everybody. Because some of these people, you could pray for them. Like I pray for a lot of family. But you can't be around a whole lot of people that are not really understanding this. You just have to be careful. Because he's not joking. All those covenants I named was based on obedience. Now the covenant he made with Abraham and the bloodline, which is probably like other people that maybe be non-Hebrew. Now they may have a chance, but that's based on the covenant he made with Abraham. And again, those type of people, they may not need Messiah, but when they get on the other side, they'll still have to submit to Messiah. But they may not receive him now because they just don't know. And that's why I said no matter, you said the good news will be preached throughout the world. It will never be a world conversion. So it's always going to be a lot of people who the God is going to probably save because of the Abrahamic covenant. So you got to tune in. You got to tune in with that. You got to know how God is saving and why. And the worst mistake anybody can make is acting like, oh, you know, God will forgive me. Oh, Jesus paid the price, and making all these excuses because they're going to have a rude awakening. And that's why he gave you Revelation chapter 2 and 3. That's why the book of Revelation starts off with Jesus warning the churches. Like, I will do you in if you don't repent. So that's why you don't want to take it for granted, and you don't want to put yourself in that situation because it's a dangerous situation. You got to make sure you're staying in the realm of knowing God's ways and obeying it. And you got to know which covenant are you under. So some people can't even answer that one. Or they try to get slick and all that silly stuff. Which covenant are you under? Because that's what God's going by. And I'm sure he will make exceptions to some people, but it's not going to be for everybody. So you don't never want to be on a tightrope. You don't never want to be guessing and being on the tightrope because the wind may blow you off of it. you want to stand on that rock. You're supposed to be certain. Again, in that description box is the walk in spirit information. And that'll benefit anybody. It has a Christian tone to it, but it still will benefit anybody. Because God is a spirit, we must worship him in spirit and truth. So you want to make sure you're doing that. God bless.